My name is Marshall. I graduated from the seminary a little more than a year ago, and while I've spent the last 5 years buried in the snowy tundra of Minneapolis, I was born and raised nearby here in Hamilton, Ohio, and then born again by God's very, very wonderful grace nearby while we lived in Fairfield. So I love the Cincinnati area because I'm from here as his home, but I love it more because it's here where I met Jesus and began walking with him. I grew up in the church where lots of really good seeds were planted there and at home, but my faith was really ignited. It was woken up through a ministry called Young Life at Fairfield High School. Young Life is a ministry mostly of volunteers who develop relationships with high school students with the hope and the purpose of sharing Christ. And a number of years ago now, I was one such student, rescued from thinking that I was good enough on my own for God. And then shortly thereafter, I became one such leader, seeking to bring other young people into this, to introduce them to this life-giving, hope-inspiring, mind-blowing Jesus that I had grown to love. So for the better part of my last 2 years at Fairfield and then all of my 4 years at Wake Forest University in North Carolina, I was investing in the ministry of Young Life as a leader, and it was during that time, those 6 years, that I really felt a deeper and deeper sense of calling, a desire to give my life, my vocation to ministry, to making Jesus known in the world wherever I could, wherever God would take me. But I knew I needed training. Through Young Life, God had shown me the beginnings of the beauty of Christ and the fruit of one-on-one, life-on-life discipleship, but there was still so much more for me to know. I felt so lost in so much of the Bible, and I knew enough at that point already to know that the power and the substance of my ministry was going to be in that book. So I needed to learn how to study it. I needed to learn the Bible. So sometime in about that same stream, my sophomore, junior year of college, it was 2006, I first heard Pastor John Piper at a conference in Nashville. It was the Passion Conference, and immediately I realized about this man that I had never heard anyone speak about God the way that he spoke about God. It was exactly what I needed and what I never knew to ask for, at least not then. The world and my diminishing attention, as I look back now, the world around me and my diminishing attention span was teaching me to read the Bible for tweets. It was teaching me to read each day and look for the 160 characters that made me feel good, and to ignore anything I didn't understand or that would offend me. But what I've learned over these last years is that the Bible is so much bigger and richer than that. It wasn't meant to be read like a Twitter stream. It's a book with sentences and paragraphs and authors and connections. It can't be read, we can't come to it like we come to our Facebook feed. No, we need to learn how to read this precious book, these words of God. And that, my friends, is what BCS has done for me. I have been trained in weaponry with which I cannot be defeated. I've been taught to use some of the most delicate and powerful tools in the world, tools that unfold God's word for me. I've been entrusted with a message that solves every person's greatest problem on the planet. And I've been fed with food that will sustain and satisfy me forever, and anyone else who believes in it. I cannot speak highly enough about the impact God has had on my life through this school, through these professors, through this curriculum, and through this book, the Bible. And one of the sweetest and most unique blessings of BCS has been the classmates who very quickly became my brothers. As I get to introduce Dio and Nay. When you have classes of 10 or 15 guys with whom you take every single class for 4 years. That's 10 or 15 or 20 hours a week for 4 years. You really can't help but become a part of each other's lives. I don't just know these brothers, I know everything about these men. I know their strengths, I know their weaknesses, I know their favorite foods, I know the sports teams that they root for. I have heard these men laugh and preach and cry. We have shared life together. We didn't just study together, we have lived together these years, and these are lifelong friends that I've made.